My name is Amber, and I have come to tell you a story. I wonder, have you heard Chip's story? All about Merchant Alley and the 40 brigands? I like that story a lot. My story is a little bit like Chip's story, but it's also a little bit different. My story is a Slavic story. That means that it came all the way from the same part of the world as Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Slovenia, and all sorts of other wonderful countries. My story is all about two brothers. Once there were two brothers, and when their father died, he only left them a small fortune. When they got older, the first brother, the eldest brother, grew to be very, very rich. He had all the riches you could imagine and wanted for nothing. But he was also very unkind and very cruel. He wasn't very nice. The second brother, the youngest brother, well, he had the kindest heart of anyone in all the lands. He was compassionate and caring, but he was incredibly poor. He was very poor and he had lots of children. They had no fire in their house to keep them warm, and often they hardly had enough food. All that they had to eat was a loaf of bread. Until one day, there wasn't even a loaf of bread for the poor brother and his family to eat. The poor brother knew just what to do. He ventured to the elder brother's door and knocked. But when he asked his brother if he could have a loaf of bread to feed his family, the older brother sneered. "You're nothing but a beggar." And with that, he slammed the door. You see, the eldest, richer brother was a miser. He did not like to share. The youngest brother didn't want to go back to his family with empty tummies and no fire to keep them warm. So he decided he would keep going until he could find something to eat, until he could provide them with some nourishing food. He walked and walked and walked, but his tummy rumbled and his legs ached, and it was freezing cold. He started to walk through the mountain forest, and after a while, he saw some pears on the floor. These were wild pears, and he was so ravenous that he had to take a bite. These pears were really, really sour. They made his eyes go, "Ugh," and his teeth feel all squeaky. He was so hungry, it was still quite a nice treat. Now that he'd found something to fill his stomach up, he realised just how freezing cold it was on the side of the mountain. And he started to walk a little faster to try and warm himself up. And suddenly he remembered. He remembered someone had told him that at the very top of the mountain was a crystal mountain top and a fire that never went out. Well, if I walk just a bit further, then I might find the crystal mountain top and the fire to keep me warm. And so he marched on. Will you march on too? Ready? He marched and he marched and he marched and he marched until finally he came to the top of the mountain and saw the crystal mountain top with a fire burning on it. What's that? Sitting around the fire were 12 strange creatures. The man was frightened. He didn't know what they were. He thought he ought to be cautious. But then he realised, I've got nothing to lose. I must be brave. I must be courageous. And so he marched up to one of the 12 beings and said, forgive the intrusion, but I have come from my family where we have no fire to keep us warm. And you have such a lovely fire. I wondered if I might be able to share with you and warm myself up. 12 heads turned to face the pauper. And they smiled. Join us. Come sit by the fire and warm yourself up. So the man sat by the fire. And straight away started to feel his toes warm up, and his knees warm up, and his tummy warm up, and his shoulders, and his chin, until he had forgotten all about how freezing he had been just moments before. He was still a bit nervous, so he just sat silently, watching the 12 creatures. They were doing something quite strange, very peculiar indeed. They would stand up, walk all the way around the fire, and sit back down again. Stand up, creep all the way around the fire, and then sit back down again. Up they got, round they went, down they went. Up, down, round, up, down, round, up, down, round. The man couldn't help but lean in towards the fire. He was very intrigued, very interested. And as he leaned towards the fire, an old man rose from the flames with a bald head and a long white beard. As he rose from the flames, he started to speak to the poor man. Good man, waste no more time here. You must go back home to your family. Work hard and be honest. You may take with you a bag of embers to light your own fire and keep you warm. And with that, the old bald man disappeared into the flames. The 12 creatures had started to stand, and they were holding a sack. Into the sack they took embers from the fire and placed them inside. Until the bag was full. They closed it up and gave it to the poor man, who was very, very grateful. "I offer my humble thanks," he said. And with that, he bid them farewell and headed back down the mountain. As he carried the bag, he felt a little bit light. They had filled it right to the top. And he wondered why the bag wasn't hot on his back. But he carried on, and when he returned home, his wife and his children were thrilled to see him again. You can imagine his delight when he opened the bag, reached inside, and found each of the embers had turned into a piece of gold. Do you know how to measure gold? Well, you've got to put it in a weighing scale. You see, you put the gold on top here, and you press the button, and it tells you how many numbers, how many grams, or even kilograms of gold you've got. Now, you see, our poor man, who wasn't poor anymore, he was quite wealthy, he did not have a scale. He knew that his miser brother would, though. So his wife went round and politely asked, "Could I borrow your weighing scales, please?" The older brother was intrigued. "You don't have anything to weigh. What could you possibly want to weigh?" The clever wife quickly replied, "Oh, well, we're measuring out some wheat. We owe our neighbours some measures of wheat." The eldest brother was still suspicious. So he took the scales and rubbed grease all over them before giving them to his brother's wife. Unsurprisingly, when the youngest brother weighed out all of the gold from the sack, they found they were incredibly wealthy. But they didn't keep it all for themselves. They shared their good fortune with all of their friends and all of the people who lived in the village close by to them. When they returned the scales to the eldest brother, the grease had done exactly what he'd intended it to, and a little flake of gold had stuck to the scale. The eldest brother saw it, and immediately he saw red. He was furious. So he demanded that his little brother tell him where he got the gold from. Well, of course, the younger man had a very kind heart and was honest-natured. It wasn't like him to be deceitful. So he told his brother all about his journey to the crystal mountaintop with the fire and the 12 creatures sitting all around. He told his brother all about the old man with the bald head and the very, very, very long beard. The eldest brother was greedy. And he wanted that good fortune for himself. It's not fair my younger brother should have all the gold. I want to be richer. Me, me, me. So he climbed up the mountain, where it was very, very cold. And after some time, he reached the peak, the Crystal Mountain top. And just as his brother had said, there was the fire, and around it, the 12 beings. "Hello, good folk," said the older brother. "I'm afraid I'm terribly poor and have nowhere to live. Can I sit by your fire? Where's the gold?" Well, the 12 beings didn't flinch. They remained expressionless. Can you be expressionless? Very good. They remained expressionless, but said to the brother, "Come, join us, warm yourself by the fire." And he sat by the fire and watched as the 12 strange creatures got up, moved all the way around the fire, and sat back down again. "What weird creatures you are," muttered the elder brother. But they continued. They got up, moved around the fire, sat back down, until eventually, out from the flames danced an old man with a bald head and a very, very, very long beard. "I've come all this way because I'm very, very poor and I don't have a house to live in," lied the eldest brother again. "Waste no time here. You must hurry back home and work hard and be honest. You may take a bag of embers so as to keep you warm at night." And with that, he disappeared back into the fire, and the 12 creatures were holding a sack and filling it full of embers. The elder brother couldn't help but rub his hands in anticipation. "Ooh, how rich I will be! I will be a very wealthy man," thought the old miser. When the beings handed over the sack, he snatched it away, put it on his back, and dashed back off down the mountain. He didn't even say thank you. And he rushed off down the mountain. But as he rushed, the bag started reeling, as if something inside it was alive. The man quickly threw off the bag and threw it onto the floor of the mountain forest, and when he stuck his head inside, out came an ant. It landed on his nose. Oh, it bit me. This isn't gold." But before he had time to complain any more, 100,000 ants were crawling out of the bag and onto his feet, up his legs and on his arms, and they were biting him with their little pincers. And there were too many for him to... And just like that, the man disappeared, and all that was left was 100,000 ants who scurried away into the sunset. Ooh, I'm not sure how I'd feel about 100,000 ants. Goodness. Well, I hope you liked that story. It's a bit different to Ali and the Brigands, isn't it? I think it's just as fun. Thank you. Bye.